Transformation isn't sweet and bright. It's a dark and murky, painful pushing, an unraveling of the untruths you've carried in your body, a practice in facing your own created demons, a complete uprooting before becoming.
Hi, beautiful people. This is Alana Wilson. I am your host. Today we are on with Ben. Ben, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. And, I've traveled a long way to get here. So I'm very excited. I didn't know that I was going to be doing this podcast until a couple of days ago, but I think it's really important to talk about the subject matter.
Yes.
And I have a lot of experience, unfortunately. But when it comes to trauma, it's very important to relay what it's like for each individual so that others that have it can understand what people are going through and that they're not alone.
Yes. Oh, and that's so important. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And coming so far, it's just so amazing that you would come and you do it and lay yourself on the line to help other people. So tell me, where are you from?
It's kind of crazy because I've been incarcerated and displaced a lot. But I'm from California, Southern California. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And I'm a California boy. I'm from LA. I love where I'm from. I moved to San Francisco for college. I came back to LA. And, I was an interstate drug trafficker for about 3 years. And I was all across the country, living in Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And now, after prison, I live in central Minnesota with my wife and daughter in a town called St. Cloud. And it's out of the way. It's sort of in the middle of the country. And it still has city vibes, but it's very out of the way. And I like it a lot. And one of the reasons I live there now is because some of the traumas that I have were very related to triggers that came from being around big crowds, and big cities are not a place that I can be. So I'm very, very happy to live in a very quaint little community with very little riffraff and a 10-minute drive to the closest big farm field. So that's where I live now. It's my home. And but I am from Los Angeles, and I wear it proudly, literally tattooed. I've got all sorts of California ink on me. Can you see it? California.
Yes, okay. I see it.
I also have like Los Angeles tattooed across my stomach, and I'm very proud of Los Angeles. Oh. I actually still have a Los Angeles area code. I don't know. We were talking before. So do you recall?
I noticed that. Yeah. I was like, it's funny because sometimes I get like scam calls and whatnot, and it's like from 310 or whatever, and so I'm always like, it was funny because the other day you called me and I was like, should I even pick this up? Like, who is this? But then it said on it, I think it said I don't know if it said a name or
did it say
something.
My wife's name?
Kaylee
Friedland?
It might have said your wife's name. I think that might have been what it was. And then I'm like, okay, so there's a person. But yeah, sometimes I get calls from like those area codes and I'm like, who is this?
They are
getting a scam.
Yeah, they're getting very, very creative and crafty with the scam calls. What's crazy is, have you had calls where like you pick up and then they hang up?
Oh yeah.
That's telling their algorithm and they sell that information to whoever so that they know that there's a chance that they'll pick up. Like those hang up calls are an indicator that is used to sell the information of your phone number to whatever. It's just ridiculous.
So creepy.
Who are these people? Who are they? Like, why are they doing this?
Who are these people? Why are they doing this kind of thing? It's kind of like those people that are just out there to like be annoying. Like, especially those people that like do like not just internet scams, but like like viruses on computers and like what's going on here? Like what is really wrong with you? Why are you doing this?
I don't know. Is there money to be made? Are they making money?
They must be.
Yeah, they must be making
money.
Or
they're just like out here to annoy people. Like
yeah, they're not just annoying people. They've got to be they're scammers.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Right.
So they're getting away with making money somehow, some way.
It's just terrible.
It is.
Well,
it's horrible because it happens every day to everyone that we know. So everybody can relate to it.
Right. So tell me about obviously it's so crazy that, you know, you're in Minnesota right now with everything that's going on. And so tell me about that. Like, what is your like experience like being in that state right now?
Well, I sort of get like a warm, sort of numb feeling just for you talking about it, because right now my state is terrified.
Yes.
My community of St. Cloud, Minnesota is the second largest community of Somali Americans in the United States.
Wow.
After Minneapolis. And there is a targeted campaign against them.
Wow.
And the anger is palpable. Everybody can feel it. There are Border Patrol and ICE agents roaming our streets and kidnapping our neighbors. And it's very scary. You go into a restaurant in my community now, and they lock the doors.
Wow.
And they don't let people in unless they are not ICE agents, essentially. And there are stories of people being taken away, and you know, they're killing people, American citizens, in the streets of Minneapolis. It's very scary to think about what they're doing that is
we don't know
not
about.
Yeah, because if they're murdering people in broad daylight, what the fuck are they doing behind closed doors?
In the detention centers.
Correct.
Where they're taking I don't know if you heard, there was an ICE agent that was, you know, raping a woman continuously in those detention centers, and it's horrible. It's
I don't
upsetting.
dismiss that. I don't find that alarming. I mean, what you're saying to me is sensational. It's like horrific.
Yes.
But from what I've been experiencing now in Minneapolis and St. Cloud, where I live, we are in a state of shock.
Yeah.
People somehow tried to justify their presence and sort of feed into the dogma of why they're there and why it's important. But it's horrific, and people are visibly angry and upset and terrified. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm delivering food as a volunteer to immigrants that are afraid to leave their homes.
Good.
I am helping with some restaurant workers that need to get taken to and from work. These are hardworking people that have left oppressive governments to have a better life for themselves and their families. And they are being chastised and kidnapped and killed.
And targeted.
Yeah. It's very, very horrendous and heinous. And it is traumatic to go through it. I was very recently at a vigil of Alex Preddy. If you're not familiar who Alex Preddy is, he was murdered in the streets of Minneapolis on 24th and Nicollet, which is a very high traffic area with shops and restaurants. And he was walking down the street. There was an ICE and Border Patrol joint operation occurring. At the time, they were on their way to snatch someone that was an illegal immigrant, allegedly. And there's so many people around that are being observant of what's happening, so they record.
Yes.
And they have whistles, and they warn people. And so this gentleman was observing what was happening, and he was just filming with his camera. He was an intensive care unit nurse from the VA in Minneapolis. He's 37 years old, and he was a very peaceful, loving man. And what happened is that he was walking down the street when they started observing a Border Patrol ICE operation, and he was filming it. And long story short, if you've seen the video, you'll see that essentially what happens is a Border Patrol agent pushes a woman to the ground very, very hard. And he is being a righteous gentleman, and he's helping her. And he's blocking the pepper spray that the guy who pushed her down to the ground was spraying at her by holding up his hand. And they tackled him for that, and they beat him mercifully with like 7 different agents. He had a concealed weapons permit, so he had a gun, which is totally legal and fine to do. And many people say, well, why would you go to a protest with a gun and a magazine? He wasn't at a protest. He was walking down the street.
Yep.
And he was defending a woman, and they disarmed him while he was on the ground as he was being beat up. They shot him 10 times after the weapon was taken away.
And it's interesting to think 10 times.
10 times.
That's like, it's funny when you think about murder, right? And the behind the scenes of somebody, you know, murdering somebody, you know, when they do these investigations, that's anger, that's rage. More than once. Once does the job, which is disgusting to do that job anyway. But you're going to shoot somebody 10 times. You hate them.
They train officers to unload their clips until they're empty. But you're right. The guy was on the ground. He didn't have a gun on him. He was disabled on the ground, beat up, and they murdered him.
It's horrible.
It is. And he was
such a nice guy from what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, he was his last act in life was to defend a woman.
Yeah.
Who was pushed to the ground aggressively by a brutish law enforcement asshole.
Yeah.
And he's a amazing person. May he rest in peace. I don't know him, but I went down to the place where he was shot 24 hours later. And there was a circle surrounding a mound of snow with a big, beautiful memorial to him. And there was not one dry eye.
Wow.
It was very, very emotional.
I know they had the video of his last I was gonna say walkthrough, but he was being essentially rolled with the flag over him.
Yes.
The American flag, and you know, it was a beautiful last walkthrough, you know, with him. And there was not a dry eye, you know, in the room, and you know, I started tearing watching that, you know, with him, and just the state of our country and how low we've gone is it's over and over again. And the fact that there's nothing that anybody can really do about it is so upsetting. And it's how do we as a country, how do we come back from being so low?
Well, that's a great question. You know, we don't live in a democracy anymore. We live in a totalitarian state where
an oligarchy essentially, and a what do you even call it? It's like you know, it's tyrannical.
It's like a oppressive regime. I mean, the fact that they have thousands of Border Patrol and ICE agents in the streets. You know, I went to the federal building. I've been there like 4 times. That's where they're based out of. And you go down there and there's, you know, pretty widespread protest, but it's nothing that's aggressive or violent. It's just people yelling at cars behind a fence,
right?
Telling them to fuck off and flick them off and calling them who they are, murderers.
Right.
And there's so many of them leaving. It's insane. There's like, you go there for like 20 minutes and you'll see 30 cars leaving the federal building. They're all masked up ICE agents and Border Patrol agents leaving to go do whatever the fuck they're doing.
It's horrible.
It
and
is.
They have no training, you know?
I know.
It takes like 30 seconds for anybody to become an ICE agent. They don't do any like vetting. They don't do anything really. The process is so simple.
Right. Well, I mean, they might do it now that all this is happening, but I mean, I don't really know. They had a push to hire 10,000 agents in less than a year, which is almost a impossibility. It's like a statistical impossibility, and they still did it. And, you know, there are videos out there about people who infiltrated the interview and job offer arena for ICE. And they were basically saying that there was nothing that was done. They were given conditional job offers based on, you know, 1 or 2 minute interview. It's insane. It's really crazy. These people are undertrained and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And they're just out deputized with guns and badges. And it's scary. It's
terrifying. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to marry this topic in with whatever it is that this reminds you of in your life. Like, what does this speak to in your life that you've experienced this injustice?
Well, I mean, I literally have a tattoo on my forearm that says "No Justice" on it. I have it. Here, I'll show it to you. I spent 7 years in federal prison, and 31 months I spent in solitary confinement. Can you see it? It says "No Justice."
Yeah.
It's a Department of Justice logo with a knife going through it. Sort of my fuck you to the feds.
Yeah.
But then again, I also have FTF on my hand, which means fuck the feds. I have spent a lot of time in isolated solitary confinement in a room. You know, the people that are watching don't know how big this room is, but it's about half the size of this room. So about 8.5 by 12, about 8 by 12. I've lived in for 31 months, 2.5 years of solitary. And I mean,
I'm so sorry.
Well,
it's not okay.
No, it's not.
And I'm telling you, I'm so sorry. Just continue. But
well, it's not. It's not your fault. I appreciate you saying that. It's just being in that environment for so long it draws parallels to the trauma that is going on right now. I understand trauma intimately because I lived through, anyone that's incarcerated for, more than just a few years understands what I'm talking about, without even getting into all of the intricacies of the trauma that we had to deal with in prison, all the oppression, all the power trips, everything. But, solitary confinement has a lot of parallels to the traumas that are being played out in the streets of Minneapolis today. It's, I think I have a proclivity to gravitate towards these protests because I am mortified and I understand that people are traumatized and I get it. So that there's a parallel between those two areas. And I hope that answers your question.
No, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. I can totally see how what's going on in Minneapolis right now it's just continually drilling into our heads that there's no justice and there's no peace. And it's also interesting because, everything that's going on, like this is nothing new in the United States. Like, yes, this is new, but is it really new in that, we've had slavery and injustice and murders and lynchings for 400 plus years with slaves and Black Americans and, slavery all over the world. But it's not just slavery, the injustice of, the civil rights movement and the fact that even after the civil rights movement, there's still been injustice and, the Black Lives Matter movement and, the fact that, people wanted to stand up and say all lives matter. And, and yes, all lives matter in terms of, blue lives matter. They do matter. But it's a sense of denouncing that Black lives matter by trying to, say, oh, well, all lives matter, but because it is implied that all lives matter. So that's kind of like, it's in talk. It's a deep talk that we don't necessarily have to get into right now. But I kind of want to bring everything back to that cell. Tell me about like, what were your thoughts in that cell?
Well, you can't let your thoughts get to you. You just have to get through the day until you get tired enough to go to sleep and wake up and start the next day. You have to keep your mind occupied. So you can't just perseverate on what's happening because it will drive you crazy and it will break you. I've seen a lot of men break, and it's very sad to see a tough man, a convict, break down. They'll never recover from it. There's nothing that you can do to truly stop the oppressive thoughts that you have in your mind when you're sitting in a solitary confinement cell for 23 hours a day, and sometimes 24, most of the time 24.
It's inhumane.
It is, but it happens. So you have to deal with it and get through it. And even though you might have a trigger, there are so many things that can be wrong with you. You can have health conditions, you can have depression or claustrophobia, but you have to deal with it. I mean, you're going to have to deal with it. You get locked into a room for all day, for weeks and months or years, and it does a number on your brain. But if you can survive it, it makes you much stronger physically, mentally, and spiritually. So you just have to occupy your mind and do your time and not let time do you, and just do the best you can in order to occupy that time and not go crazy. Most people go crazy. If you allow yourself to get to that level, it's over. It's like you almost become robotic.
Right.
But you can overcome things by occupying your mind and making yourself have a better headspace.
Right.
By just keeping yourself busy.
And let me tell you, Ben, let's rewind.
Okay.
Let's rewind all the way back to where it all began and with your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about how we got from you being born to where you are now, and everything you've been through.
Well, I was born in privilege. I was born in
Mm.
Southern California. I was born in Beverly Hills
Wow.
at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And I lived a very privileged life, and I had everything I wanted. I went to Europe every summer with my father from 9 to 18. I, I just had an amazing childhood. Academia was at the front of everything. School was private, and I had a very good childhood. My parents were amazing, and there was nothing that went wrong in my childhood that would have made me turn into an interstate drug trafficker in my 20s. But that's what happened. I have no qualms or any troubling issues that occurred during my childhood. I was just, a very hyperactive kid, and I was living in a very privileged area, and I had everything I wanted. So there's nothing really that can be correlated to my childhood and my upbringing that would turn me into someone that was susceptible to the traumas that I had of incarceration.
So tell me, like, what do you think was going through your head when it came to come time to decide to make the right choice or not the right choice, leading up to that decision to be a drug trafficker, essentially? Like, what was going through your mind and thinking, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this?
I don't think I was thinking. I didn't think about the consequences. I didn't think about anything other than myself and the greed of making money and having beautiful women and nice hotel rooms and nice things. So I really think my brain was detached, and I didn't really think of the consequences. I can't really answer that question.
Would you say that there was, you were in the wrong crowd that led to you kind of having that, option to, offered up to you on a silver platter to kind of, join that lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was around people that were they were very unsavory, and they influenced me to be not the kind of man that I should be. And so I was influenced by them, yes.
Tell me about your first experience in jail. What was that like? Just your first time going in?
Well, I mean, there's a very distinct difference between jail and prison. So are we talking about jail?
I'm even just talking about jail.
Jail?
Like the first time you even had an experience with jail.
Yeah, jail was, the first time I went to jail was in San Francisco, in San Francisco County Jail, which is a horrific, horrible place with derelict and homeless men sleeping, 30 people to a cell, a big cell like the size of this room, which is, if we don't have an understanding and you're listening, it's probably about, 15 by 15. And so there would probably be 30 people in here laying on the ground.
Wow.
It was horrible. There was feces and urine everywhere. It smelled horrible. It was just a terrible, terrible place. And it was terrifying. And so that was my first experience, was being in San Francisco County Jail, probably early in 2009 or 10. And I kept on going back to jail, and I ended up at LA County Jail. And, I was in and out of jail because I was getting into fights, and I was getting in a lot of trouble. I got arrested over 20 times in 10 different states over the course of maybe 23 to 28.
Wow.
And so I had a pretty prolific rap sheet. Being in jail for the first time for anyone is terrifying. You don't have any idea what the hell's going on. You don't know what's happening. It's scary. There's uncertainty. You're going through reception. The lights are on 24/7. You just want to sleep. You're tired. It's horrible. You have to use whatever you can to prop your head up. It's just, it's a very uncertain time, and it's terrifying.
And at which point were you like, you know what? I need to turn my life around. What was that moment for you?
Well, that moment wasn't too far away from here. It was in Croton, Harmon, New York, when I was robbed at gunpoint after bringing a large load of marijuana from California to New York. I got picked up by some colleagues of my main contact, who was the leader of the drug trafficking organization in Philadelphia. And I was picked up at the Amtrak station where I had just gotten off a train with roughly 100 pounds of marijuana. And I was robbed at gunpoint. I looked down the barrel of the gun, thought I was going to die, but I didn't. And I ended my career in crime that day.
Wow.
And I started cooperating with the federal government. I became a cooperating witness for the United States Attorney's Office in a case against the drug trafficking organization that I was a part of. And I also became an informant. But after I was used for the case that they were using me for, I became a professional informant. And I worked across the country with different agencies for a period of time. All of this is pretty crazy and sensational. It's just the facts of my life, though.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a level of detachment as well that you have to kind of have in order for you to kind of tell your story. Would you say that there's a part of you that's almost a little bit like numb to it at this point?
Definitely.
Tell me about that.
Being numb. I can sit without any interaction or distraction and just sit in a room without having to do anything because of all my time in prison. And I'm just numb to that. I know I have certain things that are way easier for me when it comes to high stress than, my wife is, completely stressed out by a situation. And I don't really care because I've seen people, murdered in front of me. I've seen suicide. I've seen overdoses, all this shit. So there's a numbness that I feel after I think about some of those things. But I'm very, there are certain things that don't process the way that it would process with you because of the traumas that I've encountered and witnessed.
Wow. And what's it like to be in a relationship after experiencing so many traumas and trying to be in a healthy connection? What is that like? And I'm almost curious to know how your wife experiences you.
Well, it's not easy to be married to Benjamin Friedland. I have a lot of trauma. And so there's a lot of triggers that I have. Bless my wife's heart because she has dealt with it and it's not been easy. I have tendency to overreact or be angry and aggressive. I've never, done anything to harm my wife, but I can be very agitated at times. I'll throw stuff. I will be, I'll break things, and I'm sort of like out of control sometimes, and it's because I've just been conditioned to react a certain way, and I don't have any answers for that. If someone does something to me that's disrespectful, I have an obligation in my head to fight them, but I don't because I'm in society now. I did have to do that when I was in prison. Otherwise, I would be perceived as weak. But now in this world, in this time, I don't have there's no reason for me to react the way that I do, but I do because I have all these triggers. My relationship is a good one. My wife is an excellent wife, and she's a great mother. And it's phenomenal to see her be that great woman and great mother and great wife. It's a very endearing quality that she has, but it has got to be very difficult to be married to me. I understand that. But bless her heart. Like I said, she's a very patient woman and, she's got her issues too. We all do. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. And I'm not even saying this to kind of like put the spotlight on you. I'm trying to it's interesting. Like these conversations that I have with people, they're very therapeutic, to kind of like just help you to kind of process. And I think that helping you process helps a lot of other people process that are, they are similar, familiar with your story, and they see you in themselves in certain aspects. I'm sure there's so many people that they're going to be in shock hearing certain things that you're saying, that are like, okay, so this experience is definitely, specific to, to Ben. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things that other people might be like, you know what, I resonate with that. So tell me about your children. How do they, like, how would you say that they, like, what kind of father do you want to be to them
Well,
after trauma?
I have only one for now.
Okay.
I keep wanting more, but my wife is like, no, it's very difficult to have one child, let alone two. You have to be responsible enough to have the capacity to support and nourish a child. So I understand what she wants, but for now it's one. And, she's 19 months old, so it's very difficult to understand how she perceives me, but she loves her daddy. And I'm going to be a good father to her so I can raise her in an environment where she has a good role model for a male figure. And I'll surround her by other positive male figures. I don't think that it's really applicable because I have such a young daughter. But I have, ambitions to raise her well.
Yeah. Are there worries? Are there concerns sometimes where you wonder if your intentions and your everything that you hope for, your hopes for her, will translate?
I hope so. That's the end game, and I want her to understand who her father is, by memorializing myself and all of the work that I've done and the podcasts that I'm in. I want her to understand that this is a chance for me to memorialize the true story about my life. If for some reason I'm not around to explain to her who her father was for any reason, then she can see it memorialized here in real time. But it's also my ambition to just be the best father that I can be. Anyone can be a father. I'm a daddy. I'm a good daddy. I very take my job very, it's not an easy job. Do you have children?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't. But I want to clap for you and say props to you for being a good daddy, because there's not enough of that out there. There really isn't. There's not enough men taking responsibility, or people in general that are taking responsibility for their children and making sure that their children are guided in the direction of right. And so I'm almost curious to go back to what your parents were thinking during all this. Like, where were your parents, and what were their thoughts during the times that you were in all these situations, like as an adult? Do you know if they were, how they were supporting you, or?
Well, obviously my parents support me through, well, it's not obvious, but they've supported me through everything. But during the time of my life where I was distant and, prolifically committing criminal acts, that was a difficult time for them. And they were disappointed, and I knew that. And it's been very difficult on them in the long term because, it was embarrassing. And, I was away for 7 years in prison.
Wow.
But they came and visited me often. It was very, very good. My mom came more than anyone. And my mom is back at home now with my wife, taking care of my little girl while I'm out here.
Aww.
So I'm very fortunate to have very good parents. They're in their 70s now, but they're very diligent about taking care of their responsibilities as parents. And they truly have done an amazing job as parents.
Aww.
It's not their fault that I went off the beaten track and started to be the black sheep of the family, but they still supported me. There's really no translation from how they raised me to the reason why I've become the way that I became. I'm no longer that way. I prize myself as a good father and a husband, a homeowner, a business owner, brother, cousin, uncle. Those are the main things in my life now. Because
tell me how you started to get your life back on track? Like at which point were you like, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it? And like, when did you have that like light bulb moment?
Well, it was while I was incarcerated. I can't specifically pinpoint the moment, but I started having ideas about what I wanted to have when I was post-release, and part of that was to be a father, a homeowner, a business owner, husband, and I take that responsibility. I have a very strong sentiment about the responsibility of having those roles. And I thought about that while I was incarcerated. I wanted to be those things. I was seeing my friends becoming fathers. I was seeing, my family leaving this earth and this world by passing away. And I missed a lot of things. And so I wanted to make sure that when I got out, I had my head on straight and that I had the goals that I intended to meet. I met all of them. My goals were to be a father, a husband, and a homeowner. And I got to do all of those things within a very short amount of time. Maybe too fast. I don't know. I think I'm doing very well for myself. There is a trajectory that I've had that has been very successful, but very recently it was stymied by a tragic injury that has left me even more traumatized than the trauma that I endured while I was in prison.
Tell me about that.
I was involved in a semi-truck accident where my semi-truck rolled over and I was ejected from my seat, and it was horrific. I blacked out and I ended up in the hospital. I herniated several discs, many of them healed, but I had to eventually have surgery, and I healed up after the first surgery, and then I re-injured myself because my disc re-herniated. It was a recurrent injury, meaning that it was the same location. And so I had to have another surgery at the same location. I had that surgery on November 4th, which was 3 months ago. And after that surgery, my spinal column started leaking cerebral spinal fluid, and I lost 17 fluid ounces of spinal fluid over the course of probably 10 days, which is a significant amount, enough to be very close to being lethal. And they went in to fix that in an emergency operation. But they found that there was evidence of pretty substantial tearing, which is, the only reason that happened was because of surgical error and malpractice. They sutured me back up, and I was not sutured properly, so bacteria got into my spine. I kept on going back to the hospital, but they were dismissing me, saying that I was trying to get narcotics. Ugh. And the second time that I went back after my tears that were found in my back after 6 days in incarceration, not incarceration, but hospitalization, I went back a second time. They found fluid in my spine. They found there to be a rising level of CRP, which is a protein level in your blood. And they still didn't do cultures, and they sent me home to die because I returned 24 hours later with 104 temperature. And I was dying. Wow. The infection had been festering for so long that it created a clusterfuck in my back. I had to have another surgery. It was a life-saving procedure. I was single-digit hours from the grave. And that was very traumatic. And it caused me a lot of pain, mentally and physically. I had to relearn how to walk, and I had to be on an IV with antibiotics for 6 weeks at home. So I've currently living in the midst of that because I'm still recovering. And it's been very, very traumatic for me. And it has very interestingly erased a lot of the trauma that was incurred through incarceration. So while that was originally something that truly affected me, the violence and chaos of prison, it was almost as if it was erased because of the new trauma that I have related to my spinal cord injury.
And you know what? We just talked about this over the phone. And I feel like it's really an interesting point to talk about with everyone, is that I 100% believe that the trauma that you experienced before this was not erased. I believe that your brain is 100% compartmentalizing
Yeah, you said that.
so that you can move forward. And because it's just too much to deal with. It's like overload. Your brain is on overload. And so when your brain is on overload, what it does is it says, okay, so we're going to backseat this for a moment, and then we're going to come back to it. And so I have a feeling that is really what's going on with you. How do you heal? How do you, like, what do you do continually to help maintain your healed self?
I go on a lot of walks with my dog.
That's great. Sometimes it's simple things like that.
I do that. I get away. I spend a lot of time by myself. And I talk to friends often that have similar traumas. Stay in touch with a lot of guys from prison, and I'm in touch with a lot of guys that have done combat tours, and we get along very well because they have similar traumas as I do. I was living in a war, basically, of prison where there was violence that perpetuated around me, and just chaos and overdoses and all the things that I've mentioned before. But I'm able to help myself by talking to those men. And I'm able to help myself by taking my dog Riker to the park near my house, walking by the Mississippi River, and having a time to think about the things that I want to do and the things that I've done, thinking about my plans and getting over some of the trauma that I've had by, having those walks and doing those things.
That's great. So I'm even just thinking, like, something that I talk about a lot in past episodes is logotherapy. And it's a Latin term where logo is about helping other people. So it's logotherapy is the word.
Helping other people when you're
through helping yourself.
Yeah,
helping yourself through helping other people. Sorry.
That's the thing that I do. I try to help people to help myself. That's that's a real thing. I do that.
And you say that definitely helps
100%,
you by helping other people.
I mean, I've volunteered a lot in disaster relief, and that was something that really, really helped me to help others, to help myself. And, I don't seek monetary compensation. I'm just very adamant about being helpful. That's what I'm doing now, too, as a consultant for law enforcement. I'm not making a lot of money, but I am helping the law enforcement community become a better entity so that they can have advantages that others might not have because of my perspective.
Tell me more about that moment when you realized that helping other people helps you.
Well, I started volunteering with an organization called Team Rubicon, which is a veteran-based disaster relief organization that's open to non-veterans as well. And when I started going out and doing these tarpings of roofs and distribution of food and, demolition of certain areas, I came to the conclusion that was something that would, really, really help me by helping others. And that's just a thing that happens. I don't know if that's something that happens with others, but for me to help someone else it's really helping me. It's not helping. I don't care what happens to them. I mean, maybe I do a little bit, but I'm really looking for an outlet to be able to be as happy as I can. And that happiness only comes with when I help people now, at least. And I've been doing that for many years.
Can you just look at the camera and tell everybody, give them advice, the people that are living a life that does not align with the values that they grew up learning, and that might kind of feel kind of distant from their family and from their values right now, and might be straying on the wrong path. Can you give them some advice?
Well, yes, I can. One of the things that you have to do when you think that you have nothing is just remember that there's people like me that have done all of this time in solitary confinement, and they're still there right now. There's thousands of them. There's people that are dying. There's people that have illness. There's people that have much worse opposition than you are in right now. You might be mad at your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, or your husband, but that doesn't really matter. You can get over it. Things will change, and you can always overcome. And things that might otherwise be very, very difficult are going to become easier and easier. So you have to just be realistic. You have to take things slow, and you have to have a game plan. There's no rhyme or reason for the reasoning behind having a, hostile brain chemistry because of trauma. You just have to be ready to do things that will be advantageous to yourself so that you can recuperate and be well, I guess.
Yeah. And also, while you're faced in that direction, what advice do you have to give to people that experience severe medical traumas such as the one that you're experiencing right now?
Well, I would say that you have to absolutely do your research on the patient reviews of how some of these individuals are working. My doctor has like 50 5-star reviews and 0 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, or 1-star reviews. So he's he's on the right track, and he is a I'm sorry. I'm having trouble with my short-term memory loss because of my
No, you're completely fine. Take your time.
Sometimes when I'm talking, I forget the beginning of the conversation right now. We can talk about that too. I have, because of the septic shock that I had and the infection that I had, it spread to my brain. It's very unfortunate, but I begin things sometimes and I forget what I'm talking about right in the middle of the conversation. We'll get back to the question that you asked, but that is a very traumatic thing in and of itself. I understand what's happening to me. It's almost like I have a degree of dementia, and it's so fucking tragic, and I have to just get through it somehow, but it's so depressing. In any case, what was the question that you asked before?
Yeah, and no, I can completely understand how depressing it is, and I think it's okay to not be okay sometimes. I think that that's something. But the question that I had asked you was about what advice do you have to give to people experiencing medical traumas?
You have to reach out and understand that this can happen sometimes. The advice that I have is to do your due diligence about the people that you're working with and to be able to put your trust into them. Medical trauma is very real, and I'm going through it right now. You just happen to have a very close inside look into what medical trauma looks like. I had basically what I would classify as, a moment of disclarity. There was no clarity there. I just completely forgot. It's not because I wanted to. It's because my synapses aren't firing the right way in certain areas. I can't really give very good advice other than to, know that the doctors that are working with you are trying the best that they can. But the thing about that I can't really relay is that the doctors that worked on me really fucked up. And so I guess you have to play your cards right and try to find the best person that you can find. It's just very difficult, and it's not easy to go through medical trauma. And it can last for a very long time. Like I said, I'm in the throes of it right now. And it's very, very difficult. I have a lot of things that anger me, and it's just very tragic. So
I'm so sorry.
yeah, it's been very hard. I have had 3 surgeries in like a month, and it's very difficult to be able to have to process that. So all you can do is just try to recover and do the best you can.
So tell me, just moving into the future and all the beautiful things that the future has in store for you. Tell me about some of the projects that you're working on right now.
Well, I am no longer driving because I cannot really be on the road. It's too bumpy. I've got, all this fuckery going on in my back right now. And I've got a team of doctors working on healing me and possibly more surgeries. I really don't know. But right now, for the time being, I can't drive. I can't be on the road. So I decided to start a consultancy that specializes in training law enforcement officers how to effectively communicate with criminals and the dynamic between informant and handler, and how to improve that by targeting and maintaining existing relationships and improving dynamics so as to become a force multiplier, to be able to collect human intelligence at a more effective rate, so to bring in bigger cases and solve cases faster. Many of the people within law enforcement never, ever learn from anyone even close to being a criminal. That's a deficiency that is unnecessary, and it is absolutely necessary for someone in law enforcement to listen to someone like myself, a former high-level drug trafficker, especially people that work in narcotics or gang units. They have to come to understand that the perspectives that I can offer are very, very effective if you can apply some of those standards to the way that you practice law enforcement. Most of what I do now is I am an influencer on LinkedIn. I'm in the top 1% of the LinkedIn platform. I'm actually
awesome.
in the top 1% on totality of the entire LinkedIn platform, but I'm in the top like 0.05% on the law enforcement segment. And I'm in probably top 5 altogether in the law enforcement segment, up against some of the most, respected men and women in the uniform or previous uniform. What I'm doing now is very atypical, but it's been very well received, and I'm very happy to be working with some of the people that I work with. I'm doing lectures at universities. I'm training officers and cadets, and I'm giving insight to the people that need insight for the future so that they can be effective handlers themselves. But I'm also the author of a publication called the Human Intelligence Ledger, and starting tomorrow, I'll be in this exact room interviewing some very prominent people within the law enforcement community as a part of an effort to expand my portfolio and have a strong voice in the community.
That's so beyond exciting.
It really is. And I have a sponsorship that's sponsoring my content, and I'm very happy to have them on board so that I can support myself and continue doing this. And I'm really looking forward to working together with all of the agencies that are willing to work with me. And if they're not willing to work with me, maybe they'll eventually come back, but they really need that experience. They need lived experience so that people that are behind the badge can understand what it's like to be in front of it. And that's what I do.
I love that. I love that wording. So can you just, moving into the last question, with everything that you've been through, how, with the good, the bad, the ugly, how do you think that the culmination of all that has led you to who you are today and in becoming you in the best way?
Well, trauma doesn't always have to be bad. It can sculpt a man into someone that's better than they were when they started. Mm-hmm. And I, strongly believe that the traumatic events that have occurred in my life helped sculpt me into the man that I am today. Mm. I've been through adversity, but I have triumphed and persevered through hardship. And the intricacies of trauma have allowed me to become this successful business owner, this man who's, purchased a home 14 months post-release, has a beautiful little girl, a gorgeous wife, and, a platform that people are listening to.
That's amazing.
I have been traumatized many times. I've lived in trauma for extended periods of time, for years. Wow. But I have persevered. I've persevered through hardship. I've survived solitary confinement. And if I can do that, so can you. That's what the most important message of learning about someone's traumatic experiences is, that, there's people that have been through tremendous trauma and hardship, but they still break through to the other side and they can be successful. You can either be successful or you can wallow away in your sorrows, but that's never going to get you anywhere. You're just going to, continue to be oppressed in your mindset, and that's not healthy. You just have to move forward, and you have to be productive, and you have to wake up in the morning and, go to sleep late and do productive things throughout the day. Sometimes that gets skewed a little bit because of, parenthood, but, it's not, you just have to keep going and doing life, and you can't just give up. And if you're listening to this podcast and something's going through your mind where, you're having a difficult day, there's always things that can be more difficult. Trust me. You can be stuck in a solitary confinement cell for 7 months without being able to talk to your family. You can have cancer. You can have, not very long to live. You can be depressed. There's all sorts of things that can happen in your life, but there's worse things that can happen. And if you have your freedom, that's all you need. Once you lose that, there's not very much that you can do to control the depression and trauma in your life. But if you can harness that while you're going through those things and you can make yourself better, then you'll be the most successful person ever, because you're going to be motivated and you're going to remember the traumatic events of the past, and you're going to do everything possible not to go back and be a part of the fuckery of whatever caused that trauma. And you're just going to be a better person as a result of that.
Wow. Ben, you are just so inspirational. Your aura is magnetic. Everything that you say, I feel in your energy, I feel in mine. So I want to say thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you so much for sharing your truth, sharing everything that you've been through. And because it's so hard, but you're so resilient, and you are the face of resilience. You are the face of what resilience looks like, and what it means to persevere, beyond everything and beyond, beyond our troubles and everything. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being vulnerable, and thank you for becoming you, essentially.
Well, that's very powerful. And I appreciate that. It's very cathartic and very therapeutic to be able to talk about this topic. And, one of the things that I'd like to end with, besides saying thank you very much for those kind words and allowing me to have the opportunity to be on this podcast, is there's always hope. I've seen so many people take their lives because they were depressed. And if you ever feel depressed and you're in the middle of the throes of trauma, you can always reach out. You can call 911. You can call, what's the other number? 988?
988.
988. Yep. I've called 988. You can call it too.
And so have I. I've called 988.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're actually really
cool people.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with calling 988 if you are in trouble. You're not wasting anybody's time, even if you just want to talk. Absolutely. So the point of what I'm trying to conclude with here is there's people that you can talk to. What might be the best thing to do is to reach out to other people that have had traumatic experiences as well, because you're going to be able to relate to those people, and you're going to be able to talk to them, and you're going to be able to work things out. Psychiatric medication is always available as well. Psychological intervention is good. Counseling, all these things are very important elements of my life. So I wanted to end with saying that, but thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to, watching the full production and seeing how it comes out. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.